Okay, comrades. Amandla. Amandla. Mata. What's this one? I don't know. I need again to kindly, before I open this, say there is another person who's lost a bag that has got medication. It's a level. Thank you very much. I have no doubt that Uson Tonga would have approved of this one as well. It's as if there was some inspiration from people like him. Long live Africa. Can I ask Comrade Snooky, just in summary, to say what everybody knows? On November 4th, the people who are sitting here were constituted by the National Executive of the African National Congress to form a task team at the national level and deal with the task of setting up a new Veterans League, constituting it, getting in touch with provinces to do that, looking at issues of importance to the ANC, so there were commissions, and also there was a conference that came in between. So this is a conference that comes at the end of the period. I think it's safe to say that today and tomorrow complete the 9 months that we're given to do this task. So it's been done in time with no request for additional resources. Comrade Snooky, please. He is the boss. It's called the convener, not the president.
Good afternoon, comrades. There's a bit of delay. They say Comrade Mbalula is just at the door, and he's supposed to open this conference. And so I feel uncomfortable if I start my speech without him having opened the conference. Can we just sing 2 songs, revolutionary songs, until he comes in? Yo Bakalanga, Yo Bakalanga, Yo Baka.
I think let's get him to start. Huh?
Yeah.
Where is he now?
That lady came and said she's entering.
Would ask the Secretary General to come to the front and give his remarks. Comrade Mbalula, I'm not citing you, but your presence has been recognized. Do you think we should start? Yeah. Okay. 16. Amanda. Thanks for those melodious tunes. That melodious tune. So I would like to announce, I'm proud to announce the arrival of the Palestinian delegation. They are with us. They've just joined us. And the convener, Comrade Nuki, will now present the political report.
Yeah, comrades, as I said, that it's uncomfortable to start at the end, but I've been told that it's on its way. Former President Thabo Mbeki, and all the important guests who are here, fellow NTT members who made sure that we mobilize and establish credible structures of the Veterans League in the 8 provinces, members of the provincial executives from the 7 provinces. I welcome you all here to the 3rd ANC Veterans League National Conference. We are gathered here today 9 months after we appointed the National Task Team to lead the Veterans League to the conference. Up front, let me thank you all for putting your shoulder on the wheel to achieve this important milestone. In this journey, and particularly in this recent period, we have lost many veterans within our ranks. In general, let us rise to observe a moment of silence for, amongst others, the following comrades. Can we rise and observe a moment of silence, please? Thank you, comrades. Following comrades we lost is Comrade Sohantal Das, George Deutsch, Jeff Deutsch, Pumza Chanchi, Nombulelo April, Comrade Frini Jinwala, Stephanie Kemp, Blanche Laguma, Beatrice Marshov, who was the ANC Veterans League fundraiser in the Free State for the PTT, Zwandile Masala, Billy Masetla, Viliso Mhlaudi, Mosi Mula, Salim Mutlana, Mbulele Musi, Phil Bonisile Nokushe, June Pahat, Comrade Eso Pahat, Tina Juma Peter, Sally Sina, who was the former ANC Veterans League treasurer. Comrades, let's sing that song, Hamba Gahle Mkhonto Wesizwe, to our fallen heroes. Can you rise? Hamba, hamba Gahle Mkhonto, 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 Mkhonto Wesizwe. Hamba, hamba Gahle Mkhonto, 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 Mkhonto Wesizwe. Tina banbo Mkhonto sizmisele, Wugurabulala, Lona Lamapunu. Tina banbo Mkhonto sizmisele, Wugurabulala, Lona Lamapunu. Thank you, comrades. Comrades, let us welcome the recent conference of the ANC Youth League, which met and elected its leadership after 8 years of not having a solid structure and a credible voice for the youth. Let us all also welcome and celebrate the Women's League, which held its conference last weekend and elected a new leadership. Malibongwe. Comrades, we are meeting at the end of Mandela Month, where we remember and commemorate one of the greatest veterans, Nelson Mandela, by going out into our communities to serve them. July is also a month where 2 years ago, we experienced what has been called the July Unrest, a week of unprecedented violent protest, looting, destruction of property, and needless loss of life. This was nothing less than an attempt counter-revolution, and the instigators behind it will still have to face the full might of the law. There is no home in the ANC for those who earlier this month celebrated the torching of trucks on the N3, referring it to July as a month of flames. Reflecting on the legacy of both Mandela and the more recent events in our history makes us realize what tumultuous times we live in, one that requires leadership and wisdom, where we have cause to celebrate what we have achieved in almost 30 years of democracy, and where we have been greatly pained to witness actions that we believe would be unthinkable and which we fought so long and hard to overcome. In this political report, as a convener of the NTT, I will reflect on the political moment we're in and consequently on the role of the Veterans League and the task of this national conference. Characterized in political moment, the political moment can be captured by reflecting on 5 issues. Firstly, we are celebrating democratic recession. There has been what Comrade Mcebisi Jonas has described as democratic backsliding, where the democratic characteristics of a political party system weakens, including when unethical leaders hijack democratic processes and contest for positions to capture power. I would like to add that the democratic recession includes declining levels of trust in government. The well-known Afrobarometer survey in 2021 found that only 38% of people trusted the president of our country, and 27% trusted parliament. 2/3 of respondents said they were happy to give up a democratic government in exchange for housing, jobs, and security. And trust is at its lowest among the young people. This is all very worrying, comrades. To address this situation, many of us were involved in the launch of the Defense Democracy campaign. Why should we be talking about defending democracy in 2023? We should be talking about advancing democracy and people's power. Secondly, this requires repeating, although it is nothing we don't know about, we face a crisis of inequality, poverty, unemployment, which has led to our people finding their own solutions to survive, which are often anti-democratic, exploitative, violent, and thus harmful to others and the environment. Our Gini coefficient is 0.63, the highest in the world. 76% of our people are chronically poor or face the threat of becoming poor. Poverty is gendered with African women being the worst off and 22% of children going to bed hungry every night. Energy poverty and lack of supply of sufficient electricity, together with poor service delivery and inefficient freight and public transport system, have become the biggest impediments to economic growth. Apartheid's legacy, the monopoly of economic power in the hands of few predominantly white businesses, and geopolitical situation have contributed to our current socio-economic situation. So did the devastating COVID-19 epidemic. How do our people survive in such circumstances? Some of them, unfortunately, have turned to criminal activities. They rob, hijack cars, become beholden to mafias, form cartels and construction businesses for them, live for months underground in illegal mines, traffic children and drugs, launder money, and so on. Comrades, this is tragic. It is beholden on us to continue to turning the situation around. We as the ANC need to do more and be more decisive in implementing our policies and in respect particularly to land, the economy, education, healthcare, and reform of state-owned institutions. The rule of law, comrades, must prevail in this country, and we have to rebuild the capacity of a caring service delivery-oriented state. Thirdly, we face challenges of different order, which appear out of control. Black swans, unprecedented in scale, with unknown responses and consequences such as COVID-19, climate change, leading to flooding, water shortages, earthquakes, and cholera outbreaks. However, most are a result of the damage we have done and continue to do on our ecosystems. Climate change is a result of too much carbon emissions. It has been argued that the recent earthquakes in Gauteng are due to water ingress and illegal mining activity. One can only imagine the impact of the war in Ukraine, which has destroyed dams, towns, and cities, with women and children being displaced in their own country. Fourthly, We face a moral crisis in South Africa. Nowhere in this more evident than in the nature and extent of corruption. Corruption has gone beyond politicians and high-profile business persons. It has become, sadly for many, and the poor and vulnerable, the only way they can access a place for their children at school, obtain a driver's license or a trading permit. What is more frightening is that the Chapter 9 institutions, such as the Office of the Public Protector, school leadership, and even civil society bodies, such as churches, who should provide moral and ethical guard rails for society, are broken or contested. Fifthly, and lastly, our political party environment is in turmoil, characterized by a significant decline in dynamism and democracy in all political formations, while our beloved movement is seized with internal problems and strife. We have seen opportunistic coalition building, or worse, with comrades assassinating each other or act for access to power and resources. The allegations of vote buying in too many ANC conferences. This must be arrested, and those found wanting must be disciplined by the movement. Comrades, the strategy of deployment has become misused and abused to give those deployed access to rent-seeking opportunities. Many in the ANC no longer see themselves as servants of the people. I would argue that one of the major reasons for the seemingly growing trust deficit referred to earlier is the increasing disconnect between the people and us as leaders. And since the ANC is the governing party, this lack of insight into the lives of our people and lack of empathy has hampered progress in government and slowed down the pace of achieving a better life for all South Africans. Having characterized the political moment, let us not be oblivious about the gains that our movement and the government have made and are continuing to make. The recent developments in respect of resolving the energy crisis in the freight and logistical sectors are welcomed. We wish the recently appointed Transnet board well as they take over the management of this troubled state-owned enterprise. We are heartened by the holding earlier of this week of an ANC local government intervention workshop to turn around dysfunctional municipalities. We should also acknowledge our national leadership in government for skillfully managing the visit by President Putin to South Africa, as well as pursuing South Africa's continued participation in AGOA, the role of the Veterans League. Many of us would rather be caring for our grandchildren or returning to our traditional homes to rest. But you have all witnessed what I have described above and made yourself available to continue to defend and advance our struggle for the attainment of the National Democratic Revolution and socio-economic transformation through the ANC Veterans League. What then should be our response and role in these times? The role of the Veterans League is set out in our Constitution. It says that the purpose is to gather together veterans who embody the organizational experience and institutional memory of the movement and the people's struggle for freedom and democracy, to play an important role in reinforcing the traditions, history, values, and unity of the movement. Further, we are required to rally behind the African National Congress in the struggle to create a non-racial, non-sexist, united and prosperous society and support the ANC in the attainment of the goals and objectives of the National Democratic Revolution. Comrades, we came out of the 55th National Conference of the ANC with 6 priorities. The first one is the question of party renewal. We all agree the party needs to be renewed. We said we should end load shedding. Load shedding has to come to an end. We said economic recovery by increasing employment and investment. We said there should be better service delivery in the maintenance of infrastructure. We said we should strengthen the fight against crime and corruption, and we should take action to build a better Africa. As veterans of the movement, we committed ourselves to put our shoulders to the wheel and ensure that the movement delivers on the above priorities. In the discussions within the NTT since November, we have focused on several priorities which I believe should continue beyond this conference. Firstly, we have done a tremendous job in revitalizing, energizing, and establishing credible and legitimate branch structures of the ANC Veterans League. If truth be told, comrades, the Veterans League was not functional. There were many complaints of gatekeeping and no properly constituted branch structures of the ANC veterans. At provincial level, we failed to intervene authoritatively on issues that affected the integrity and dignity of our beloved organization. Comrades, it is only by being organized in branch collectives that veterans can play a role in leading and guiding both the movement and society. Further, after this conference, comrades, we need to finalize the proper establishment of provincial structures in KZN and Gauteng. We need to set up regional structures where required and continue to build vibrant and responsive branches. Secondly, comrades, we have been and need to continue to be at the forefront of the renewal of the African National Congress. This involves engaging the battle of ideas, developing and modeling what kind of ANC cadre we want to see, and in proposing concrete steps that the mother body should take and be accountable for. We need to advise and guide the movement, particularly on issues relating to integrity, ethics, and values. We, comrades, we need as veterans to take a hard line on factionalism and the practice of controlling or owning members by other members. We must push for the verification of members and the exclusion of individuals who have criminal records. All new ANC members should undertake lifestyle audits, and all members, both current and new, should take the Pledge of Allegiance. Thirdly, we have resolved to participate actively in resolving local issues facing our communities, including through participation in ANC branches and community structures, and guiding the ANC and ANC councillors. Comrades, we should advocate for monthly branch reports on the state of delivery of basic services and maintenance of infrastructure in each ward as part of branch functionality. We must ensure that there are visible interventions aimed at addressing municipalities that have operationally collapsed. Comrades, we have 43 dysfunctional municipalities in our country. And we have to make sure that those municipalities are revitalized. We've made to make sure that in those municipalities, competent, capable, and incorruptible councillors are appointed. This is in line with the imperative of the ANC to reconnect with the masses of our people, to win back their trust and respect as proposed by the Veterans League National Task Team at the 55th National Conference. Fourthly, comrades, we need to be involved in political education at all levels, from branch discussions to participating in provincial programs, and also to be part and parcel of the Oliver Tambo School of Leadership. We have plenty to share, comrades. Part of contributing to political education is writing up or participating in oral history projects, recording our memories and experiences, and reflecting on what lessons this experience hold for forthcoming generations. Comrades, next week is the beginning of August, a month when UDF veterans and stalwarts are arranging to commemorate 40 years since the launch of the United Democratic Front at Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town. Under the banner of UDF 40, Active Citizenry for Accountability and Transformation, activities are being arranged to reflect on our history and what lessons the UDF can tell us about the present. Being an active part of this initiative is part of playing a role in intergenerational political education. Comrades, let me add, we should be intervening in our communities to ensure that proper schooling, as well as encouraging our children to acquire skills we need to revitalize our economy. Comrades, as veterans, we should make sure that our children in our communities, those that even if they have PhD in social sciences, they must go back to school. They must go to TVET colleges. They must learn skills. We need more artisans in this country. That's the only way we can be able to build this economy. Lastly, next year is an election year for South Africa at the national and provincial levels. 30 years after democracy, it is acknowledged within and outside the ANC that support for our movement is tenuous and uncertain. However, this is not the only electoral challenge that we face. Voter registration of young people is pathetically low, and voter turnout in elections has been declining, especially in respect of traditional ANC supporters. Thus, as the Veterans League, we need to be active on three fronts. Firstly, we need to be championing mobilization for voter registration so that members in our communities exercise their right to vote, which we fought for so hard and so many have lost their lives for. Secondly, we need to input into the ANC election manifesto and election tactics, including positioning on coalitions, as well as the process of nominating representatives to parliament and provincial legislature, so that the ANC is a credible party to vote for. And then thirdly, campaign for the ANC to emerge victorious as a majority party in our country. Comrades, as we execute our role, let us do so with humbleness and humility. We have a role to play, but we must be ready and willing to hand over the baton to the next generation. And in truth, there are new issues which may not be adept to responding to. The task of this conference. Comrades, it has been a painstaking task to prepare for this conference. We have had to navigate the ANC membership system, verify comrades, and put in place logistics for a successful conference with limited resources. We can't allow this work to have been in vain. Most of the members of the entity who are sitting behind me did all this work without a pay. They dug in their pockets to make sure that we build this Veterans League. They were not being paid. We are here over the next 2 days to elect a national leadership that will serve us well over the next 5 years. This leadership must reflect the nature of the Veterans League and be in line with our constitution. In choosing the national leadership, comrades, we must bear in mind geographic spread. We must have gender equity. Even as we all are over 60, we must balance the less and the more aged, and must embrace a diversity of skills and experience. These are the criteria for the election of leadership, not who may be best placed to get access to resources. People must not be elected to leadership to have access to state resources, but to serve our community and our society. Comrades, we are here not only to elect a new leadership. We are also here to determine a program of action for the leadership to implement over the next 5 years. High on this agenda is to pursue the renewal of our mother body, the African National Congress. This is a report from the Renewal Committee of the ANC Veterans League later on, which is later on the agenda. Also of importance is to set out for both the ANC members and those in political sphere our policies and approaches to key issues facing us. The Policy Committee has deliberated on issues such as the energy crisis, service delivery, and coalitions. Going forward, comrades, we need to take positions on the Universal Basic Income Grant, the future of state-owned enterprise entities such as the Post Office, the role of SMMEs, broad-based black economic empowerment, the forthcoming procurement legislation, national health insurance, and so on. We also need to articulate international solidarity with the people of Palestine, an ongoing struggle for freedom where possible, follow up with practical acts. Our success as the Veterans League will, however, rest on ongoing disciplined organization of the Veterans League branches and structures underpinned by a workable and solid constitution. The 27th conference adopted the first constitution of the ANC Veterans League. A legal subcommittee has gone through this version and made amendments, some to align with the ANC constitution, such as gender parity, and others to accommodate the specific nature of the Veterans League, such as branch demarcation. Amendments to introduce regional structures have also been made. We have met the requirements in the constitution to table amendments. And thus, we must leave here having finalized this important task. In conclusion, comrades, I want to extend my appreciation to all those who have brought us to this point as the Veterans League. In particular, comrades, I'd like to thank the fellow comrades in the leadership of the NTT, Comrade Mavuso Msimang, Comrade Natso Kumalo, Comrade Susan Shabangu, Comrade Musa Ishmael, Comrade Trish Hanekom, and Comrade Ilva Makay Langa for steering this ship and ensuring that the third conference of the ANC Veterans League is a conference of branches. Comrades, I wish you all in the deliberation at this conference. Amandla! Mata! Thank you.
When Okay. Amanda. Martha. Well, it's very clear from the political report given by our convener that we are living in truly challenging times. I have to say that much is expected of this conference because it's an ANC conference in the first place, but also because it's a conference held by the elders who, by dint of good performance, sustainable performance, have shown their commitment to this country via the vehicle called the ANC. Much, I must repeat, is expected of us. Maybe much too much, but I think we should be able to rise to that expectation. The branch revitalization is going to be a very difficult but unavoidable assessment. We do have a national election next year. We do. People are not even talking about what we're going to do. They're trying to find out what they're going to do with coalitions, you know. We should not really be working for coalitions. We should be able to take our numbers across the 50% line. I'm happy to announce, before I ask the representatives of our fellow leagues to recognize the presence of Comrade Stella Ndabeni Abrams, who is a member of the National Working Committee of the NEC. Hey. There is Mutupolo Ngudle, the SG of the ANC Youth League. The young people. And Ulufe from Kuchu, also ANC Youth League NEC, she's a member there. Comrade Mtutuzi, you've been in corridors and moving around, organizing. We got to know you. He is present too, Comrade Mtutuzi Manana. You're all welcome here. We'll now ask fraternal organizations. When you're inside with us, are you fraternal? The Youth League? Sorry, who starts? Can I give? Oh. Comrade Fixer. Fortunately, I'm not looking for any positions now in the organization. So this blunder would be unforgivable, suicidal. We welcome Comrade Fikile Mbalula, who was held up. Please give us an opening remark.
Amanda, long live Veterans League, long live. Long live Veterans League, long live. Amanda, viva ANC, viva. Viva African National Congress, viva. Viva COSATU, viva. Viva Communist Party, viva. Raw Young Lions, raw. Matinta bafazi. Matinta bafazi. Phambili nge-Veterans League, phambili. Viva Mkhonto wesizwe, Veterans, viva. Comrade Chairperson, thank you very much. The convener of the Veterans League, Comrade Snuki Zikalala, the coordinator, Mamnato, and the entire leadership entity of the Veterans League. I greet as well Comrade Mvuyelwa Thabo Mbeki, the former president and the president of the African National Congress. I greet you, the veterans of our movement, the African National Congress. Molweni, Dumela. It is indeed an honor to stand in front of you as we open this third conference of the ANC Veterans League. This is indeed an important occasion. An organization as old as the ANC has over the years had many comrades who qualify and have earned the accolade to be referred to as veterans. Over the decades, since its founding in 1912, the ANC has produced leaders and members whose lifelong service to the movement is not only worth celebrating, but also serve as our moral compass. The ANC Constitution describes an ANC veteran, I quote, as an ANC member 60 years of age or older who has served the ANC and the movement over an unbroken period of 40 years. Comrades, accordingly, a veteran of the ANC is someone who has given the better part of their life to the work of the ANC, to the service of the people of this country, and the international program, particularly in the African continent and the whole world. In the context of life in a post-apartheid South Africa, it might be easy to think of the life in the struggle against apartheid as a rumination on a bygone era and nostalgia. This, as you know, comrades, is furthest from the truth. You know not only from books, but also from your own lifelong experience, the price that all freedom fighters had to pay to end apartheid colonialism. You remember, as you spend time with your children and grandchildren, the pain of solitary confinement, the pain of torture and interrogation, the difficulties of armed confrontation, underground and spells of imprisonment, the collective price you paid for the freedoms we enjoy today. It was the 52nd National Conference in 2007 that enjoined us to establish the Veterans League of the ANC. As we assemble here today, we may as well say that task has been completed. We are here today to meet and consolidate the work of building the ANC Veterans League. On behalf of the officials, and the entire national task team for a job well done. As the moral compass of the organization, you duly participate in the work of the organization in order to guide against the pitfalls, which from the vantage point of your lived experience could easily be understood and appropriately attended to. Comrades, we meet here today against a backdrop of changing economic outlooks, both from the domestic and global context. Both our economy and the global economy have just emerged from one of the worst challenges occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been compounded by the geopolitical conflicts in Russia, Ukraine, and some extent NATO. Comrades, we have nonetheless made serious strides in the last 7 months to turn around the economic situation in our country. And some of July 2023, Statistics South Africa further reported that the annual producer inflation fell to 4.8% in June from 7.3% in May. Is beginning to fall sharply. One of the main focuses of our work since January has been to tackle the crisis of load shedding. This is because energy availability, comrades, has significant implications for economic productivity, price stability, job stability, and expansion, provision of healthcare services, as well as safety and security. We have seen good improvements at Eskom so far. Already the severity of load shedding has fallen a great deal as we see improvements in plant performance across Eskom. More work remains to electricity around the clock. We are convinced that we can put load shedding behind us by the end of December or even before 2023. If comrades, Gordon, by that, then they started. Speed. what? And by so saying, it doesn't mean who's in charge. Is it Ramaphosa? ANC is in charge. That's what is important. Ramaphosa is deployed by the ANC. He's the leader of the ANC, the president. Fear. That's what is important. For reducing the volumes reduce the cost of transportation. Important for both goods we got good news, which is what President Mbeki has been talking about to some of us who are ministers, and of which is the plan that we have been implementing in government, and what the ANC this year in the January 8 committed itself to, the social compact. Relationship of business and government. This week, there's been big improvement and big announcement where business, more than 115 CEOs signed a compact to support government to improve on logistics. And again, all the banks in the country have also signed a compact to support government. In that way, comrades, we are going to realize boom in the economy. So if we were to be out of power next year with all these important developments, it will look like those who will come in are the best, and we've been sleeping on the job. This job of changing lives and building this economy is on track, and our economy is on the recovery, is the work of the African National Congress. As a matter of fact, comrades, as the ANC, we agree with the perspective weaknesses in the logistics network for the transportation of goods impose unnecessary additional costs to the business sector, and these costs are inflationary as they are factored into the final price of goods that public must pay. We agree with this particular perspective. This brings into sharp focus the strategic role of the state-owned enterprises such as Eskom and Trans. Of goods transportation greater it's in the 2020 policy conference. Diagnostic report on the state of the perception of the ANC as entirely corrupt. Levels of trust among comrades, failure to focus on solutions. In the 54th National Congress, which at its center is about building and governance capacity and its ability to adapt to you, to this conference, that this program of renewal is on track. This program has been anchored on the following pillars. ANC as the center of all the work for transformation, both inside and outside the state. Clear and unambiguous stance on the ethical behavior of ANC members and leaders. Organizational building against any of our big leaders in the organization. I don't know who's big. Bigger than you, because you are big. So, will the organization rise to the occasion? And then we said, it is the SG, it is the DSG times. The organization must that the chairperson and deputy chairperson. In vain, we have sought to assert the integrity of the organizational views and perspectives of the movement. We have had to deal decisively with some of our deployees who seem to see their work as an unending jamboree where everything goes. Comrades, that is why those who defied the instructions of the movement had to reckon with the fact that The patience of the movement is not unending. They had to realize that the organizational culture of the movement is drawn from the revolutionary concept and practice of democratic centralism. There is space for democracy, but when a decision is taken, the majority view obtains. And in instances where an upper structure has taken the decision, lower structures have to and must comply. Those who do not understand these epithets are yet to understand the African National Congress. And in all fairness, comrades, this principle is practiced in all democratic organizations, political and otherwise, for the obvious reason of organizational coherence. Over the past period, and as part of addressing the problems that were identified in a diagnostic report, we have strengthened our approach to address delinquent and seemingly an unethical behavior within our ranks. We have taken steps to protect the ANC from such acts. Any comrade who has been charged in a court of law must step aside. Any comrade whose action might undermine the standing of the ANC must explain himself or herself to the Integrity Commission of the ANC. We have also strengthened the work of the disciplinary committee of the ANC. To deal with nomination disputes, gatekeeping, etc., we have allowed and encouraged the use of the National Dispute Resolution Committee. For those unhappy with the outcomes of these bodies, there is a National Appeals Committee. In other words, comrades, we are strengthening the mechanism movement to execute. Education and training, publicity, committees, having a fully fledged and monitoring various policy implementing subcommittees to ensure that conference resolutions are implemented. One of the primary activities of a political party in a democracy is to contest elections. By assigning this responsibility to both the first Deputy Secretary General and a full-time NEC member, we are creating the capacity to always be in an election mode. Even in years where there are no national or local elections, we are able to oversee the work done about elections that are always ongoing. We have also created and assigned an NEC member for the first time on a full-time basis to lead political education, Comrade David Makura, on a full-time basis. We are strengthening the work of the O.R. Tambo School of Leadership, which focuses on curriculum development and the design of modules. We have been busy, comrades, including the newly elected provincial executive structures across the country. We have inducted the recently elected National Executive Committee of the Youth League. The same will be done with the new National Executive Committee of the Women's League. I'm not sure who will induct the Veterans League. I think you must call on Comrade Tabombeki to come and induct you. And Umkulua is there to also induct. You can't be inducted by me. You are supposed to induct us. Comrades, we have introduced the practice of an extra day in our NEC meetings, which we use to reflect on strategic, conceptual, and theoretical issues facing the revolution. We can't lead the revolution in the dark. Our comrades today don't understand the difference between an opponent and the enemy. They think it's the same because there's no political education. So if leadership leads in the dark does not reflect from time to time on the ideological and political struggle around us, this revolution will be on autopilot. It will drive itself. We will not see on the way what is wrong and right and guide the rest of the membership. You have heard in the press statements we have released on the ongoing program of the NWC visits to provinces. These visits take 3 days. They start off with NWC visits to the regions accompanied by NEC deployees to the province. The regional meetings take a similar form to regional general councils. All branches in the regions are invited, including the mayors, the speakers, and the municipal managers. We have covered 3 provinces so far: Limpopo, KZN, and Northwest. We have used the opportunity to confront and deal with both real and perceived problems and assisted comrades to address challenges that face them. It has helped the headquarters to understand the dynamics that face our organization on the ground and address the risks that pose a challenge to the unity of the organization and the efficacy of our work. We are happy to say, comrades, that we are fully on the path of renewal. For us, renewal is not a pie in the sky. It is about building an organization that can execute its mission. It is about an organization of coherent members that respect themselves and respect the ethos of their organization and its tradition. It is an organization that upholds collective leadership in which there is a synergy between a branch member and the top leadership. It is about an organization that is ideological and whose members respect and advance the values of the organization. More importantly and fundamentally, it is about an organization that can oversee and direct the work of the state in pursuit of the strategic aims of the National Democratic Revolution, to build a people-centered society. It is our view, comrades, that we are not where we will want to be yet, but we can see the envisaged future on the horizon. Dear comrades and veterans of our movement, there are some who believe that a strong ANC will be overbearing to the state and may be tempted to overreach in its relationship with the government. It is our view that a strong ANC, a strong organization, is an asset to the government. A strong organization rooted in our communities can complement the work of government. Such an organization, if rooted amongst the people, will be the first to see the problems that affect the people. It will be the first to see potholes on the road and the first to see the state of public facilities such as schools and hospitals. It will be the one that listens to the concerns of local businesses and formal and informal traders. It is the duty of such a vibrant organization to raise these things with those from us who are deployed in government. However, for us, complementing government is not the same as micromanaging government. We have all the confidence in our comrades in government. We want them to do their job without having to concern themselves about a Luthuli house that is breathing down their necks. We do not support and are opposed to the macro-management of of the interventions in the economy. In our last NEC statement, in anticipation of this conference, we said of our veterans. I quote, "The ANC looks forward to the ANC Veterans League serving as the moral compass of our movement as we navigate various complex national transformation issues, both on organizational and governance issues. The ANC will continue to sip from the timeless wisdom and counsel of its veterans, some of whom have been appointed into the Integrity Commission, while some play vital roles on various platforms, including the structures of the ANC. We venerate and celebrate our veterans for the heroic role they played in our struggle and look forward to holding hands with them in the ongoing struggle to transform our socio-economic landscape." Close quote. We see our veterans as the finest product of our movement. We want them to be our place of refuge when things are tough. A few days ago, comrades, we concluded a national workshop to address challenges of delivery at the local government level. That meeting was a response to a call from the convener of the Veterans League, Comrade Fikile. He has repeatedly called on the ANC to pay attention to the challenges of local government. We listened. We were particularly heartened and inspired by the presentation by Comrade Meg Maharaj on behalf of the Veterans League. That is what we want. We want advice and guidance, as well as policy interventions that can strengthen the work of the movement. We want you, comrades, to help us out of the problems we may stumble upon as we try to offer leadership to this great movement and great country. This high expectation presents a challenge to you as individuals. We expect our veterans to be distant from the shenanigans that those of us who are still learning may get ourselves into. We do not want to be called to intervene and solve problems at the center of which will be veterans. We are confident that we can, and we will depend on you. That's why even in ANC conferences, we don't want veterans to vote. We want them to be above all of us, literally, so that you can call order at any time. You are the only people who've got the license to speak at any time, and even with the press, about the challenges facing the ANC. Because some of us, we might be too comfortable. We might be too comfortable. So if the veterans do not play their role that they are expected to play in our movement, the ANC and this revolution will die. So we value you, comrades. We value you, Comrade Snooki, from time to time as you speak, even though you've got a lot of freelancers in your midst, which you must from time to time. Do not drown us when you see we are in trouble. Help us. You know, some of the veterans I see sometime when we know ourselves that we are in trouble, they go in public and say this and that about the ANC. And I've given you a report briefly in my address that was deliberate. And that report is not complete. I'm reporting to you about the work that we're doing. And when you finish this conference, you will also tell us what you want from us. And we will comply. We'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the National Executive Committee once more, and the President of the ANC, and the National Executive Committee of the ANC to wish you well in your deliberation. We look forward to the outcomes of this conference, which we know will take the movement and our revolution forward. And we convened 2 conferences. It is the first time that the conference of the Veterans League start according to plan. And I was saying to put Snooki as I conclude, you know, we can't have those shenanigans of the Youth League and the Women's League with old people sawuzibangela amashwa. So I'm very happy, Putsunuki, on behalf of the NEC, that we are able to start as planned. And as I conclude, I didn't acknowledge Umkulu, Comrade Khalima Mutlante. I want to also conclude by acknowledging him as our former Secretary General and Deputy President. Thank you very much, comrades. Amanda! Away too! Pata ANC Pata! Pata ANC Pata! Amanda! Pata Matamela Pata! Skokele Matamela Skokele! Sikokele Veterans League Sikokele! Amanda!
I think let's get it out now. Question, Amanda. Thank you, Comrade SG. You were well listened to. Don't cause any veterans to have to say things about the NEC. Please. Comrades, let's get back to the meeting. I need to make a few announcements. Comrade Mkulua, you've been recognized. Thank you for coming in. Comrade Chesa, why are you sitting there? You are part of the NTC. Afraid of the hot seat? Please come over. We also have Comrade Pemi Majodena among us. You are welcome, Comrade Pemi. Comrade Dipu, sitting correctly here, where you should be, instead of being a big ANC person in small business development. Yeah, that's right. You're welcome, sir. The Palestinian delegation, whose presence has already been announced before, would like to present something to the meeting, and we will invite them to come forward. But in the meantime, we do also have Comrade Poli Buishielu, who is a member of the NEC, who am I? Soli Petwe. Kosatu, oh yeah, of course. Perseverance. And Comrade Mike Shingag of Kosatu. The comrades who are still experiencing apartheid now, coming to people who dealt with apartheid. We get a lot of inspiration from your courageous fight.
We will one day hopefully get rid of this apartheid and colonization in Palestine. Exactly. Thank you.
من أرض فلسطين المروية بدماء الفدائيين والمقاومين.
From the land of Palestine, which is filled with the bloods of martyrs and freedom fighters, we salute you.
نحيي مؤتمركم وشعبكم العظيم وبلدكم العظيمة.
We salute you and your country and your people, your great people.
نحيي حزب المؤتمر ANC.
And we salute the ANC.
وسمعنا كلمة الأمين العام للحزب.
We have listened to the speech of the General Secretary of the ANC.
ونتعلم بحركة التحرر الفلسطينية من تجربتكم العظيمة.
We learn a lot from your experience in Palestine.
فمن أرض فلسطين، من أرض الزيتون، من أرض القدس والمقدسات، من أرض الحضارة والتاريخ، نقدم هذه الهدية الرمزية لقيادة الحزب المؤتمر.
From the land of Palestine, the land of olive trees, from the land of the holy places, from the land of struggle, we present this to you all.
Long live the struggle of the Palestinian people. Long live. Victory to the Palestinians in our lifetime. Thank you very much. Whoever knew that I would be handling something from the Palestinians. Colleagues, let's get on with the program. I think it's time now to invite messages of support from the Youth League. Thereafter, it will be from the Women's League. I don't know if MK Liberation or veterans are here. I'll stop there for now. From the Youth League.
Mandla. Gawethu. Long live the Veterans League, long live. Long live the ANC, long live. Long live the ANC, long live. Long live the Tripartite Alliance, long live. Two, long live. Long live South African Communist Party, long live. Long live the ANC war veterans, long live. Mandla. Long live the ANC Youth League, long live. Thank you very much, Comrade Chairperson. My name is Mtuoto Longudla. I am the newly elected Secretary General of the ANC Youth League. Greetings to you, Chairperson, the convener of the Veterans League, Comrade Snooki, the leadership, the entire leadership of the task team. Greetings to the former President, Comrade Thabo Mbeki, the former Deputy President, Comrade Kgalema Mhlante, and the entire veterans of the ANC. Greetings to you all. It's very difficult. I was saying, Comrade Convener, maybe we were
we, as the Youth League, we have been inducted wrongly. We were told we can't speak after the ANC. Now, the ANC gives a message in the conference of the Veterans League, then the Youth League is expected to come after. Maybe we are still to learn more whether we should proceed. So I was whispering to Comrade Mtudi, I'm quite awkward to speak after the ANC. But I saw it's a program of the Veterans League. I said I will comply, Comrade Convener. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in this very important conference of the Veterans League. We were very grateful as the ANC Youth League, particularly because the ANC Youth League has not been in existence at the national level for almost 8 years. This would have created a lack of activism, of youth activism, in the structures and branches of the ANC Youth League all over the country. So to address a Veterans League conference is really an honor. We're honored to be invited. Having said that, Comrade Convener, coming here into this conference, there were many thoughts that were happening as we are coming in our head. Because we inherit the Youth League right after these 8 years where there was no national structure of the ANC Youth League. But we are confronted with lots of challenges as a country. We know when we come into a platform of this nature, a platform of veterans of the ANC, people who have been in the struggle for over 40 years of an unbroken struggle. We ask ourselves many questions of the many problems that young people are facing in South Africa. When we inherit the Youth League, we're expected by all young people in this country to speak on their behalf, their hopes, their aspirations, issues around the bloated youth unemployment, the issues around the landlessness of our people. We're expected by them to speak on their behalf on the participation in the economy of South Africa. We're also expected by majority of young people who are black and Africans in the main to respond on the black poor problem in South Africa. Now, 8 years after the non-activism of the ANC Youth League and 30 years after the democratic breakthrough of 1994, there is a stark reality in South Africa of a post-colonial society that has got 72%, as per the land audit of 2017, of the land of the ownership of the land in the hands of a wide minority in a population demographic of black Africans who are landless. We're expected to respond to that particular question. We're also expected to respond, Comrade Convener of the Veterans League, to the question that African youth is asking us. Why is the ownership, control, management of the economy, 80% of it, is still in the white hands? We're expected to respond to those particular questions. Now, as the ANC Youth League, we have said that part of the responses we will have to do is to visit the veterans of the movement. The president of the ANC Youth League said to all of us in the past NEC that we must visit the veterans of the movement because these are historic problems of the continent of the country. The black problem is not a 1994 problem. The black problem is a problem dating back in the transatlantic slave trade, in the partitioning of the continent in 1848. The black power problem starts and continues to the colonial era in the dispossession of the African people. But 30 years into democracy, we have not resolved any of the problems. We have not resolved the land question, not resolved the ownership, control, and management of the economy. We have not even resolved at the macroeconomic level the questions around education and skills. But we, as the last country to be liberated in this continent in 1994, we have said we have learned lessons of failed states from other African liberations in the continent. But 30 years down the line, the black poor problem is still confronting us. Now, in our conference, where we emerge from, we've made very clear proposals on the economic question, on the land question, because only in 2017, when the former deputy president, I think that a high review panel was headed by him on the land audit, a stark reality was revealed there, that 72% of the land is still in white hands in South Africa. The other reality has been exposed, Comrade Secretary General of the ANC, that about 89% of the loan book of the land bank is white South Africans. What does this tell us about the black poor problem? It tells us that our revolution, from which we claim we are advancing, has not moved an inch in relation to solving these structural problems in South Africa. This is despite some of the progress we've made in building a democratic dispensation and a democratic state, which requires us to sort of accept that the South African state has built democratic institutions, and that deserves a round of applause. But on the fundamental question of which our struggle was founded, the issue of the land, the issue of dispossession of our people, the issue of dehumanization or humiliation of the African people has not been resolved. Now, our propositions are very clear, and we will solicit advice to the veterans of the movement, whether or not we are bastardizing the economic questions. Number one, we're proposing, SG, that you can't say you will resolve the black poor problem, the bloated youth unemployment in South Africa, unless you industrialize the South African economy. Now, you can't industrialize the South African economy unless your industrial policy suggests that you want to build industrial development in your own country using your own industrial policy. So what has been the problem in South Africa? We have deregulated the exchange controls in South Africa, particularly on the mineral resources. We are proposing that there must be imposition of export quotas on raw materials so that any other person who says he wants to invest on our minerals, for example, we're making an example convener of the Veterans League. 77% of the world's platinum is between South Africa and Zimbabwe. So if you impose export quota over a mineral called platinum, you say 30%, only 30% of raw minerals of platinum must be exported. The 70% will be here in South Africa. Anyone else who wants to build industry must come and invest in South Africa. We'll create conducive conditions for investment for that particular matter. No investor in the world would not come in such an environment, because you will create the necessary conducive environment for investment to happen in your own country. But you will create the much needed jobs. You will create also the capacity of manufacturing in your own country. You will gain technology sovereignty and economic sovereignty as a result. So that's one proposal to resolve this particular problem. That's number one. Number two, we're making a proposition inspired, of course, by real tangible experiences of the Asian tigers. We're saying at the macroeconomic level, the Asian tigers have invested on two things for them: to take millions of their people out of poverty, but to build capacity, to do technology upgrading of their own countries. On two aspects, on the macroeconomic level, they invested on education and skills. They invested on massive investment on infrastructure, so that they can build massive investment on infrastructure, both economic and social infrastructure. The two aspects have built capacity of the Asian tigers to industrialize their own economies and gain economic sovereignty as a result. The question for the African National Congress, as a governing party in South Africa, a liberation movement, the oldest in the continent, why can't it learn lessons from the Asian tigers? Why the Asian tigers have been able to ring-fence their own economy, use some of of course, the whole global economy operates on the basis of free trade. But is it free trade for all? Is it free trade for all? Our answer is no. In the American markets, you can't just export anything to the American markets, because they impose over you. They impose over you certain fees. And that's why the South African economy requires that our industrial development or our industrial policy must have some protectionism while it allows free market, so that you can protect the infant industry that you want to build in the South African economy. One good scholar, before I sit, Comrade Convener, the South Korean scholar called Ha-Chung Sheng, says, and he makes this reference because he has done comparative studies all over the world. He says all developing countries of the world are given false economic solutions by the organized multilateral institutions like the World Bank and IMF. False economic solutions. They are kicking the ladder so that you do not protect your infant industry. As it is in South Africa, we produce nothing. We don't even produce a toothpick. We import toothpicks. In Cape Town, the clothing industry collapsed because our exchange controls were deregulated to an extent where all those infant industries that were South African industries collapsed and jobs were shed, because where are we taking our clothing items from? China. Why can't we protect our economy? That's the message we're coming with as the ANC Youth League into this particular conference. Thank you very much. Economic freedom. Economic freedom. In our lifetime. Thank you very much.
Long live the Youth League, long live. Shall we now invite, time is really against us. Part of the discipline of any people coming together is to keep time. I would like to invite whoever comes to the podium to respect that, give us a gem in a few words, in a few minutes. Women's League, do we have representation? Double heads,
Amandla Gawe 2 Matla Kiaruna Matimba Aina Ashu Manda, all the power to the people. Long live the veterans of our movement. Long live. Long live Omagala Omzabalazo. Long live. Long live the Kwakwetla Sasichaba. Long live. Thank you very much. Huluna Diaparangwe. Kuni Magala Alum Zabalazo. The veterans of our struggle. Comrades from the entity of the Veterans League, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Mbalula, and the entire leadership of the NEC deployed here, the leagues of the ANC, the Tripartite Alliance, plus SANCO. Allow me, comrades, not to salute wonke umtu kudala benibuliswa apa. Bali dumedisitse ke sa hlole ke fihlamo. Lisantsane le dumediswa le tla dumediswa le usane. Abandla, allow me to save time ndiyamoyika utata Mavuzo. Funeka ndigaqanise komgaqo bangilifa. Ndizawuqaqanisa ke maqabaneni. Mandated by the ANC Women's League to apologize that the president is unable to be with you here to deliver a short message of support, because we are holding our first National Executive Committee of the Women's League. We are only 5 years old as this NEC of the Women's League. 5 days old. Our conference ended on Monday. Today is Friday. We are holding our NEC because we have a backlog as the ANC Women's League. We are bringing our revolutionary greetings to the Veterans League. Onozala. We are here as the ANC Women's League because we were led by yourselves. You defended this organization when it was not fashionable to be in the struggle. You went through all challenges, through all pains, but you're still standing. Looking at this house today, one feels in the Yoruba, we owe it to you, veterans. We must not disappoint you, veterans. You kept the fires burning. Sikhule sibambelela kuni. Sinikwa indlela. Rafua hore re tsebe mokgatlo o emetseng. For that we are very much thankful as the ANC Women's League. The former Secretary General, Ubaba Umkhulua, every time he sees us, when one was leading the Youth League, he will say high morale, city high discipline. Even today, I think these veterans are saying to us, high morale Women's League and high discipline. And we want to confirm and affirm that we as the ANC Women's League were fresh from the conference, and we commit and affirm that we are going to reignite and revitalize the ANC Women's League out of factions that have killed our movement. We are going to plug in the ANC renewal, rebuild, and the uniting ANC through the last conference. And as the Women's League, we convened to reflect on the multiple struggles as experienced by thousands of women in their diversities in the villages, township, across urban and peri-urban, and the rural areas of South Africa. It is through a collective wisdom of our communities, collective wisdom of these veterans gathered here today, where we draw our strength and mandate. We as the ANC Women's League want to wish you well as our veterans, and as long as you are there, this struggle is safe. This struggle is in safe hands because you have been the vanguard of this struggle. You have gathered jealously against our struggle. Nasinikezela ukuthi masingayimoshi. This year, 2023, marks 110 years since the Women's Anti-Pass campaign in Bloemfontein, led by Mayor Charlotte Maxeke, which later led to the first women's organization, the Bantu Women's League. When we started, when the ANC was unbanned, the women, most of them who are veterans today, they talked about 30%. We adopted 30% because women are in the majority. And today you are at 50% because you have been running behind us as the ANC Women's League. And for that, we are thankful. You get like a person with 60%. See, 60%. This coming weekend, comrade veterans, from tomorrow to Monday, because as a newly elected NEC, we are hosting and convening 3 provincial conferences of the Women's League in Limpopo, in Free State, and in the Eastern Cape. And the mandate is one: renew, rebuild, and unite the Women's League. We call ourselves the Green Mamba. When we arrive in a ward, we must leave no stone unturned as the ANC Women's League. We are united behind the strategic objective of the ANC, which recognizes the intersection of the 3 fundamental contradictions of colonialism of special type, racial oppression, women's oppression, and class super exploitation. And therefore, the issue of gender-based violence and femicide was saying that is a pandemic that must be eradicated by all of us. Let the Veterans League also assist us to lead from the front, not in the name of the veterans, that women must still suffer through gender-based violence and femicide. Gender-based violence. We acknowledge the fact that we as the Women's League are tasked with broadening the mass base of the ANC, be a cutting edge of the broader women's movement, lead in the education and mobilization of ANC members. In each and every branch, the majority of members in good standing are women. The majority of volunteers are women, and therefore women is a force to reckon with. And now, Fikile Mbalula, we are going to elevate the Gertrude Shopper Peacekeeping Forum, because more than often the wars are started by men, and therefore men cannot end wars. We are saying, as Onozana, want to come in and be part of the peace building processes in the continent, even internationally. Andy Kubela, Hakifeleleza, Ndate Mudula Stulo. Poverty has a women's face. Women's rights are human rights. And therefore, we must be united to fight all forms of poverty, eradicate poverty. We proclaim that this is for the reason that we affirm status of all women as a critical part of motive force for change. The motive force includes all women in rural areas as well as in townships and informal settlements. We are saying, as the ANC Women's League, let's also respect the rights of LGBTQI plus community. Ngabantwana bethu bazalwe sithi and kufuneka sibakhusele ngalo mazwi ririhuluna basichaba lilela rieta la pili ralilatela Masikhusele into eniqalileyo. Thina ANC Women's League omama balapha. We're not going to disappoint you. We have intergenerational mix in our NEC of the ANC Women's League. And sithi namhlanje xa nidibene apha ANC khona Comrade Mbalula. Ye naba abanikazi bento. Naba abanikazi bombuzo abalazo. Nasi Veterans League, and please be united. Unite us. Unite us. If you see us as the ANC Women's League going astray, please call us. We are standing on the giant shoulders zenu because udala khona oqala azive oqala ibone nini maqala alomzabalazo amandla. Thank you.
Ayakuvumela community Zandla noko it was not very loud. Let's recognize the issue of women. Please. And one woman who is here, all 90 years of her, is Melissa. She's in the meeting here. She's from the Western Cape. Yeah. But sometimes also, oh, she should have been given the mic, yeah. Is there a mic? Can you give her a mic, please? Has she finished?
Bari ke le phete. Bari ke buele lunde. Ke na le 90 years. Ne ke tsama ka melamo ke kula. Part of the day of my 90 years, badimo ba ka ni modimo ba lahla di melamo yethu. ANC re tswa hole le yona. We used to cry when things are happening in the organization. We used to ask ourselves, is this the movement we died for and suffered for? But the hope was there. We'll overcome it. We'll overcome it. Rita khutlela hape. ANC ayina shwa. We protected it. Habatu ba tswa ho yona. Ba ne re ba tshepile. We trusted them. But they divided and disunited the African National Congress through cliques. But I refused to be silenced. All these years since 1954, I joined the African National Congress. At the time of Chief Albert Lutuli, he made us aware things will happen. But, you are not riding an electricity train. Litzamaya, train here, kush kush. There are problems. Even if you are right, but once it's disorganized, step down. And when it's over, get up and move forward. Think of the African National Congress. These things were happening. Namhlanje, I'm proud. Yabulela.
Okay.
Yabulela. Le committee, ANC yakam Ramaphosa, enyulileyo West Capichilet, Ramaphosa, Rizamailuwe. Yona Jena Risato, Rizamailuwe. Who never organizer, we were not just ANC organizers. We were trade union organizers. We were members of the Communist Party.
I'll ask for from the women's league. MK, please come forward. Speak like soldiers, brave and to the point. Do we have a representative from and
Amanda! Long live the African National Congress, long live. Long live the South African Communist Party, long live. Long live COSATU, long live. Amanda! Long live the ANC Veterans League, long live. Long live Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War Veterans, long live. Mandithathe ithuba ukubulela ku-program director. Before ndifunde okubhaliweyo apha, I think it is important for us as members of Umkhonto weSizwe, who at all cost, of course we all know you cannot be a member of Umkhonto weSizwe before you become a member of the African National Congress. We believe how funukulungisa izinto ekhayeni lakho, you look at the small things, minor things, ngoba zizo ezenza ukuthi ukhuphuke uye phezulu and do the correct thing. I just want to mention one thing that probably we take it for granted here. Probably maybe some of us do not understand the meaning of a national anthem. It is of utmost importance. It tells you who you are. It makes you proud that you've got a country, you are liberated, you are free. Now you've got a national anthem. I've seen people as the national anthem was being sung here, moving around, you know, doing all sorts of things. So I think, comrades, it is important that these small things we should teach each other from the branches. And if we do not do that, it simply means that we do not understand where we're coming from and where we are going. And we can only do that if we go back to our branches and teach each other. Because our branches now have been bought. That is why you find that political education is no longer primary in the life that we do. I felt that on behalf of Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War Veterans, I should pass this message to us as part of our collaboration as the Commissariat of Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War Veterans with the O.R. Tambo School of Leadership, where we want to be part as combatants of this organization in bringing back that life of a branch of the ANC. Singathethi ngomlomo kuba amandla asemasebeni. Amasebe must be in a position to lead this organization from where they are. Amasebe must be in a position nxa kukhona izinto ezirongo noba zenziwa ngucomrade uFikile Mbalula or comrade Ramaphosa, bazitsho ezo zinto ngokusebala, but with discipline. With discipline. Discipline is my packed subject everywhere. We always remind each other in MK
that without discipline, we won't go anywhere. It is the mother of all victories. We believe that Bo Comrade Fikile Mbalula and his unit, Bo Comrade Solomon Mahlangu, Bo Comrade Mukwerane, Bo Comrade Zondo, it was not just bravery for them that made them to face the hangman's noose. It was because of that discipline that was inculcated in them by this organization that you are veterans of. So it is important, comrades, that some of these small things, we look into them deeply, because these are the ones that are going to correct us to take the correct path that we're supposed to be taking to really change the situation in our country. Comrade Program Director, the interim leadership of the ANC Veterans League, member of the National Executive Council of the ANC, all former presidents of our movement and our republic, members of the ANC Women's League, the elected leadership of the ANC Youth League, our tripartite COSATU and the South African Communist Party, SANCO, ambassadors and representation of sister organizations, fellow combatants, good afternoon, fellow comrades. In every society, there are always a chain of defining moments that emerges and follow each other as part of the historic evolution of that nation, its cultural institutions and centers of power. However, what cements these moments within the soul of our nation is how they define themselves and got interpreted within the political realm of the socio-economic reality our people and ourselves face, live, and exist within. Some of these mixed moments and the habits that come with them for our survival stayed longer with us than others that come to pass as part of evolutionary nature of human existence. These national moments are often characterized by their uniqueness to each other in the nation's history, standing as they do in their own rights, as accompanying landmarks in our political journey towards freedom, equality, and justice. Amongst these moments, some are so peculiar to the organizational culture, traditions, and values we grow up with, that so many of our comrades sacrificed their revolutionary lives for that we often left stunned and puzzled. Some of these moments have turned out to be ugly for our movement. Indeed, some very bad for the ANC, and some remain truly beautiful, like today. Today, we are being born again. Today, we are being born in the culture and tradition of the ANC. And I wonder how many of us here, as veterans of the ANC, realize the mammoth task that is on our shoulders as our organization finds itself where it is today. I want to repeat, Comrade Secretary General, what I said in one event where we were together, that it worries us a great deal when we see our own leaders in the National Executive Committee standing in front of our people, telling them that in 2024, the possibility is that the ANC will go beyond 50%. Do you, as a soldier, get defeated even before you go to battle? No, you don't. You would rather die with your boots on. With our leadership, it pains us when we see decisions that at some point would make us to go and rule with parties that have got only 1% sometimes in some of these municipalities. Where is our revolutionary morality? Why don't we go back to our people, do what is correct? Comrade Program Director, the great and greatest of our revolutionaries who came before us all the way from the founding of the ANC may or may not have envisaged this moment of renewal. But we are here essentially to do better with their movement. Those of us who were in the first conference of the ANC, when the ANC was unbanned, would recall what Comrade OR said when he was handing over this organization to all of us who are here. I know he was handing it over to Comrade Rolihlahla Mandela, but he was handing it over to us. Now we need to reflect and ask ourselves, where is the ANC today? And I want to remind us again of the mammoth task that we have in our shoulders to renew this organization. And do we understand when we talk about this term of renewal, what does it mean? Or it is just a talk that we're talking about because it's just all over the media? It's a term, comrades, that has to make us understand that things are no longer the same in our own movement. That is why, Comrade Program Director, we come here this afternoon as Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War veterans, whose revolutionary consciousness as veteran combatants is still married to the national revolution. It is in this revolutionary spirit that we greet and extend our warmest revolutionary regards to you from the former combatants of our movement. Comrades, the resources are there. The human resources are there to renew this organization. The time has passed for people to gatekeep and keep those who always ask the correct questions at bay. Now it is the time that we bring our spirits together and work for this renewal. It's not going to come free, comrades. It's not going to be easy at all. But we need to dirty our hands for this organization that we all love. To us as MKLWV, the ANC Veteran League remains a crucial historical link between today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Hence, we respect you as a platinum collection of tried and tested leaders of our movement, whose political contribution to the soul of the ANC and this battle of ideas will always remain timeless and ageless. We also acknowledge that many comrades, majority of them were committed to our revolution, didn't have the privilege to live to our age. Majority of them were painfully and brutally denied the opportunity to live to witness our liberation. We all know Comrade OR died just as we were about to go for elections. But I'm sure wherever he is, he doesn't regret the role he played for this freedom that we are enjoying, but at the same time take it for granted. With all that we have gone through in the struggle as the veterans of our movement, you are an embodiment of what we believe is a life lived in service to others. That, in a nutshell, is a revolutionary life worth living, celebrating and acknowledging for what it is. We as MKLWV hold the Veterans League in the highest esteem. This is not because many of you were once our political leaders and some fellow combatants, because to be a member of the ANC Veterans League is a privilege, uncontested position in the revolutionary life of the African National Congress. It is what in society is ordinarily called ancestral and godly, This is essentially because the Veterans League, individual and collective levels, is blessed with endless wisdom of the many years of struggle. Let's take that wisdom, comrades, out there to those branches that have been bought by brown envelopes. Let us go out telling ourselves that the time of brown envelopes, thy date as forbade, now is to build this organization. Your dispensary of revolutionary morality and political wisdom will reinforce once again the importance of our movement adhering to the values and principles that once guided the cause of freedom. It is in this regard that your timeless and ageless contribution to the ongoing battle of ideas and the sharing of our perspectives with society, both as MKLWV, ANC Veterans League, especially with the youth and women, remains both critical and urgent. As political towers of ANC institutional memory and revolutionary morality, your conference resolutions are likely to influence society. The battle of ideas, social cohesion, and geopolitics beyond the confines of this hall. On the geopolitics, comrades, we just want to say many of us may recall the majority of MKLWV were trained by the Russians, in particular by the Soviet Union. It encourages us, comrades, when we see the leadership being involved in changing the world as it is now, the involvement of our country in BRICS. That gives us courage, because we know without the Soviet people, we would not be here. That's why we used to sing. That's why we used to sing, Soviet people, lovely nation, here we are far from home. We shall need you, we shall love you, for the things you've done for us. This takes us back to the camps, comrades, where those who sacrificed their lives were given political education by the likes of Comrade Mark Shope, Comrade Ronnie Casrels, and many stalwarts, comrades, who dedicated their lives for this organization. So it is upon us, as the combatants of Umkhonto weSizwe, that we need to take the baton. These MKLW views are part of migration from the MK Military Veterans Association to MK Liberation War Veterans. We all know, comrades, what was happening in the past. People were used in uniforms, military fatigues. As young as 2024, they were called military veterans. It was an insult to them. So, comrades, it is important that we, as Umkhonto weSizwe, Liberation War veterans, we don't take it light when we are invited into a conference of this nature. As I'm sitting down, comrades, we want to say that we as MK, we believe that together with yourselves, the critical component of the ANC veterans, hence we are to join forces to redeem our movement through our interaction and conference resolutions, such that we move forward the revolution. Aluta continua. Amanda. Amanda. Long live the ANC Veterans League. Long live. Amanda.
Thank you very much, Amanda. So, Mathengi Bengu, you are here also. I'd like to recognize you. We shall now request Is it Comrade Chingange? He and Comrade Solipatswe are here, but it's a wonderful choice. Who comes? Oh, the Vice President. Please come to the podium and address us. And in the familiar discipline of trade unionists.
Okay. Matla, Matla, all power, Aluta, Viva ANC, Viva, Viva ANC Veterans League, Viva, Viva the War Veterans, Viva, Viva the ANC Women's League, Viva, Viva the Young Workers of COSATU, Viva, Viva the Young Lions of the ANC, Viva, Viva the YCL of SSP, Viva, Aluta. Thank you very much, Comrade Program Director, Comrade Msimang. Through the convener, Comrade Snook, let me greet the interim leadership of the Veterans League, and through the SG of the ANC, greeting all the NEC members present here, and greet the Alliance and our guests, the Youth League, and the Congress delegates. We want to take this opportunity firstly to apologize for our president, who was meant to speak here, who's out of the country on other organizational activities. And that is not because we did not understand the occasion. It's because ngabasebenzi besemsebenzini as well. But also, like the ANC Youth League, we want to say that much as we understand that it was an opening remark by the ANCSG, our hierarchy of the alliance doesn't allow us to be much on the podium once the ANC have spoken. Ours is to stand here and present our well wishes for the Veterans League's conference and say that much as we were actively involved when we agreed that there was a formation of the ANC Veterans League, standing in a conference of the Veterans League is very humbling. It actually confirms the correctness of that ANC conference in 2007 to form the ANC Veterans League, to keep the wisdom, but also, like the ANCSG said, the whip that will always whip all of us when we veer off the road. Sitting here among the delegates is a component of the Alliance of the African National Congress. There are workers here, there are Communist Party members, there are community leaders in Sanko, and indeed there are veterans of the ANC. And therefore, this can be only the true angels of the renewal of our revolution. While we thank you for inviting us to come and give a message of support, we want also to say that this Congress takes place at a time and in the context of the continuing crisis of capitalism in South Africa. Capitalism that produces high levels of unemployment, high level of poverty and inequality, resulting in the crisis of the social reproduction. We witness with the persisting high levels of crime, social demobilization in our communities, with continuing alarming levels of violence and femicide against the women and children. And one of the things that pleases us is that this Congress takes place just after the very successful Women's League National Conference, as well as that one of the ANC Youth League successive conference. For us, this is a motion that is a aid to renew our movement. Like the ANC Youth League said, after a very long time that we did not have the ANC Youth League. Now that we are sitting here in the Veterans League, we think that there's no turning back. We are also saying, comrades, that COSATU shares the concerns of the Veterans Leagues about the state of our ANC, the state of our alliance, the state of our economy and that of our society at large. Whilst we have done well in main fronts since the democratic breakthrough since 1994, from spending 60% of the budget on the social wages to rolling out public service and relief aimed at the poor, to more recent interventions such as the releasing of 64 billion from the Unemployment Insurance Fund to help 5.7 take care of their families. The state and the state and which that was envisaged by the primary motive force of the revolution, being the working class and the poor. Because it is our view and the quality of life for elderly people, the persistent crime in our communities, the dilapidating infrastructure, the stripping off of the state capacity to be the ones that intervene in the economy and also provide a service to our people, including the state of our municipalities, cannot be described as an NGR that is on course. That's why as COSATU, we have felt in our congresses and in our central committees that we do think that the NGR is in a state of stagnation. In other words, it's not moving fast enough. Actually, it is on the threat of being regressed. And we do think that intervention of the ANC, particularly as part of the report that the SG was raising here, it is very important for us because it takes the right direction. One of the messages we want to say as we try through these coming days in this conference to awaken all of us in the alliance and the ANC and the government, particularly as we move towards 2024, is that government must act decisively now within the 9 months that is remaining to ensure that we do all the things that we've promised our people to do. But the problem we are facing is that we have got a situation where the tail wags the dog. The government here, the ANC in particular, is put by our people in the state to use the state machineries to transform the life of our people. Instead, the state swallow out and drown out our policies, including transforming ourselves who are deployed in government. And that's why, as COSATU, Comrade SG, we agree with you, unapologetically, that it cannot be that we are not raining on those who put ourselves into disrepute when they're in government. Otherwise, there's no reason why the people of South Africa must put us in the state. Especially when, in some few elections ago, we had to face a situation where when we're going around our communities and apologize for the wrong things that were done by our deployee, almost distancing ourselves from those who we deploy. That no, there's an ANC as a party, and then there's people in government. But people voted the ANC into power. They didn't vote individuals into power. When we can't take responsibility of those or the actions of those whom we've deployed, why must we put in power? So we are saying, we agree with you, Comrade SG, that we must rein on those who put us on the back foot by their actions in government. The third point I want to raise this message is about the transformation of the economy. That South Africa is the most unequal society in the world. It's not because it's low yield. It is not because it is because the structural framework of the economy was designed. It was clear by the